I want to do this video today because this book arrived for me, Chestnut's The Complete Enneagram. And what I'm planning to do is talk a bit about the type 4 and the social 4 specifically, because that's what I am. There's really nothing online about it in terms of YouTube, so I wanted to discuss a bit of what that's like. Once I scour through this, I'm going to have a lot more knowledge, but I'm just going to give a little bit of summary. Basically a, what do they call it? Entree, not the entree, the appetizer. I'll give you an appetizer, okay? There's this myth that being a social 4 means you're social, okay? It doesn't mean social. What it means is that you see yourself related to the world through a social lens. So for me, I've always viewed, where do I fall in culture, in history? And this isn't uncommon for people who are writers. I'm a writer, so this is what I'm constantly thinking about. Okay? Every 4 has all 3 variants. We all are self-pres, sexual, and social. Just one is dominant, one is secondary, and then the third that you are is supposedly, is your blind spot. For me, I'm social self-pres. So when social isn't working out, I dip into the self-pres, more indulgences, food, wine, drink, things like that, pleasures, film watching, things like that. But for the social 2, for me personally, it's always been me versus out there. I've always felt that kind of disconnect. And the social 4 specifically is not outwardly competitive. Rather, the social 4 is going to withdraw. Also, the social 4 is very much about letting you know they're suffering. And this can be in a very subtle way, but as an example from the past, I remember many years ago when I had a guy reject me. And obviously he was rejecting me because he didn't see how special and wonderful and unique I was. So the thing I tapped into was I went into going, oh, but look at, I've suffered so much. I've had this horrible, my childhood, things have always been difficult for me. I've been through this, no one understands me. I went through this whole myriad of BS, psycho BS, emotional shit, as if this guy who's probably, a shallow 7, he'd give a shit. I mean, if anything, that's going to scare him off. But I'm thinking, this makes me, don't you want me now? I've suffered so much. So that's just I'm just covering the very surface level, okay? I'm not getting into any depth until once I've read this book. But 4s in general, but specifically, I know for me as a social 4, I'm very sensitive to perception. I'm not so much anymore because I've taught myself to not give a shit. But when I was young, I'll give you an example. When I got out of college, I worked as a cashier at a grocery store just to, this is before I started college, so I was right out of high school. And I remember thinking, I really had to learn the job and I had to learn percents in my head, because if I got an item that I didn't know how to calculate, I'd look stupid. And I said to myself, these people coming through my line are going to forever think of me as that dumb cashier, and I'll never exist as anyone else but this stupid cashier. So I better make myself look presentable as possible. And it's just ironic because it's who cares, right? The fact that I'm thinking this is utterly ridiculous, but that's how we think, at least then. So just giving you, I was going to do a different topic, but I'm just going to sum up basically. Another example I have is I remember when I started college, my family had moved, I had gone to a different state, so my entire history was uprooted. And when you're 17, 18 years old, your entire history and identity resides on your past, because you haven't lived enough to have who you are. You don't know yet. So when that was uprooted, I literally felt like I lost my identity. So I was like, this is tragic for a type 4, which of course I didn't know that's what I was, but I just felt this complete alienation. I ended up attracting this type 7. He was likely a self-pres 7. And he was the total partier, very extroverted. And I thought to myself, okay, well, if I'm with him, he'll make me normal. Because what he did was he reinforced to me my defectiveness. And I don't think he was necessarily doing it to be cruel or manipulative. I just think he was trying to be helpful and say, well, you're kind of strange and you like to read and stay in and blah, blah, blah. You really need to get out. You need to party more and all this crap. And while in theory, that's not necessarily a bad idea, his suggestions were coming from the wrong motives. So that was not going to fix what was wrong. So going out and partying was not the answer. Yes, I met a bunch of people. Yes, they all knew me, but they knew me as his girlfriend. I had no sense of self. They didn't know who I was, and to this day, I have no contact with any of these people. I don't think they even remember me. So I thought being with him would make me normal. Then maybe I won't feel this defective feeling, and so I can tell you, I was for a while on the other side. I was there with all, how the fours feel. It's me, them. I was once on that side. I was them. I looked like them. I dressed like them, but I did not feel like them. This only made things worse. I did not fit in internally. I didn't feel that. So it didn't make me normal. It actually threw me into a depression. I felt completely empty. I felt like if you touched me, I'd be confetti and just completely fall like ash or just to pieces. Because really, when a 4 is going through a lot of trauma, turmoil, and indulging in that melancholy, we don't want you to just suggest shallow remedies, like go party, go do this. What we're really looking for is for you to notice something about us, for you to identify something, because what we're searching for is a connection. We're using that pain, and I remember very much being like, oh, I'm so upset. I was going through shit, because I remember this is a guy who parties all the time. He's in my dorm room on a Friday night, asking me what's wrong. I'm sobbing and saying, everything. He doesn't know what to do, right? So all he knows how to suggest is very, experience things. Next week we'll go to this concert. That's not going to fix it, okay? Clearly this is the wrong person for me. But when I was saying everything, and I'm using, sort of not even realizing I'm using this suffering I'm feeling as a connecting, something to connect. I'm using this to try to reach to you. And that's what a 4 is doing. We want you to reach that and to, to be like, I get it, I understand, and to notice something about us and to give us an indication that you understand who we are. Because ultimately, we do want to be understood. We want that connection, but it's just we don't feel like we can achieve it on our own without you. We gotta play hard to get, okay? You gotta work a little bit, but I guarantee you it is rewarding. It does pay off. So that's what point I wanted to make. When the social 4, and 4s in general, but specifically the social 4, using that suffering as a mode of connection. We're not looking for you to fix it. We're just looking for you to make an observation, notice something, show us an indication that you understand, not on some shallow level, but on some deeper level. And when you are a 4, you do see the world differently. And these remedies don't work for you, and that's okay. You don't have to feel ashamed that you don't want to do what everyone else wants to do. But going out and doing things, that's great, but you got to be at that healthy state in order for it to work, for it to matter. Because just doing it, when you feel empty and you don't feel like you know yourself, you're going to be lost. It's just shallow ephemera. It's like an empty shell. You're just going through the motions. You're just like a robot. And that's how I felt. I didn't, and I went into this deep depression. So I'm saying this video really fast because I don't want my phone to crap out. But I'm going to talk a lot more about the Enneagram. As I said, I'm going to be reading through Beatrice's book about all the different types, and especially type 4. And if you are a 4, I hope this reaches you. I find it very interesting. I also really like, I have to add, sexual 4s are very interesting people. Every time I've encountered one, what I've noticed about them is they stare at you. Not in a bad way, but it's like they really want to know you and they ask you questions. They want to, they're reaching out. Like the sexual 4, I think, is more, I'm reaching out to you, and they want you to come back and say something in return. They will ask you questions. And whereas me, as the social, I'm sort of like, eye contact, oh God. But I identify with things about the sexual 4 too. I live in my fantasy world, like everyone else, you know? So anyway, just wanted to touch base, and I will have some more videos coming once I read through this, and if I can think of anything else, working on my books, check out my public Facebook page. If you'd like it, like my public Facebook page. I update a lot of stuff there, and my Amazon page has some of the few books I've released, but I've been working on more. So anyway, just wanted to touch base. So I will be in touch soon, and thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.